Good morning, everybody. You're all very welcome to our webinar, simply titled Better Cyber Defense for Your Organization. My name is Simon Kelly. I'm the Head of Sales at Unity Technology Solutions. This webinar is one that we're very excited to host today because it's actually the first webinar we've hosted in collaboration with our colleagues at Echo. For those of you that don't know, in August of this year, Unity, our sister company IT Force, were acquired by Echo, who are one of Europe's fastest and largest growing IT solution providers. You can see on the screen there, the number of employees and locations is pretty significant. In Ireland alone, there's over 300 people employed in the business, offering services across managed cloud, IT security, business continuity, and managed workspace. We're really looking forward to seeing what opportunities it gives to all of our customers as we move forward and bring those offerings to the market for all of our customers across all of our companies to enjoy. Some housekeeping for today, and this has been recorded, and please don't worry if your own microphone or webcam is on, nobody will be able to hear you or see you in that recording. Absolutely feel free to ask some questions. You can use the chat box in Zoom down the bottom of your screens. Those questions are only viewable to the panelists and to myself. We have set aside some time at the end just to go through some of those questions, or as many as we can, and provide some clarity. We do run a number of polls during the content. This will help us shape the content itself and try and make it more relevant for everybody. The poll question itself will appear on screen, and then you'll receive a pop-up that allows you to answer that question. So please use those polls and help us make this as relevant for you all. Our agenda for today is primarily focused around a piece of technology called Microsoft Defender. We have two speakers for you, Mark Skelton, who is our Head of Technical Services, and we also have Michael Coyle, who's a Microsoft Technology Enablement Specialist. Microsoft Defender is a piece of technology or a suite of technologies that allows you to protect your users and protect your devices and ultimately protect your organization. The good news is many of you could already be paying for Microsoft Defender or have access to it through your existing M365 licenses, but however, more on that later. Just before I hand you over to Michael, we do have our first poll for you all to answer. So, at what stage of your security journey are you with Microsoft Defender? Just please pick one. Just learning about it, evaluating it, starting to use it recently, or you're already an existing and very heavy user. So please cast your votes. It'll just take us a little bit of time to collate those answers, and then I can hand you over to Michael, who can take you through the rest of our content today. So at what stage are you at with your journey with Microsoft Defender? Are you just learning about it? Are you currently evaluating the technology? Have you started to use it and deploy it already? And are you an existing and heavy user of the technology? I'm just waiting for the results to come through there now. Okay, Michael, the good news is everybody is here to learn. Everybody's just starting, keen to find out a little bit more. Well, not everybody, the majority, keen to find a little bit more about Microsoft Defender. So I'll hand it over to you for the rest of our content. Thank you.
Simon, thanks for the introduction, and it's great to see so many people here. That first poll question, if you just get your answer in there. One thing I would say on here is, and we started with this slide first of all, because Defender really in the Microsoft landscape means security. So Microsoft, what was interesting, I was on a call yesterday, and if you had asked on the Microsoft portfolio about 10 years ago that what Microsoft did in security, from 10 years ago to now, the difference Microsoft have done on here. But the other thing I would say as well is it can be a little bit confusing. So Microsoft have a number of different products in this here area. So for example, look at the slide there and you'll see Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Now that's a very popular product within the Microsoft landscape, because what it does, it protects over email, protects, like say, links or attachments coming in by email, but also protects you on, say, for example, if you're on Teams, on SharePoint, if there's a link in there, it's got real-time detonation and that as well. So for example, if somebody sends you an email, you don't look at the email for a couple of days. Once you click on the link, it activates it, it checks to make sure that it's not sending you off somewhere else. You've also got there over on the left-hand side, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And again, there's a lot of synergy between Cloud Apps and Microsoft Defender for Endpoints as well. So Cloud Apps is where you can kind of look at all the apps that you're using in your organization. You can see, do I have any vulnerabilities? So for example, maybe say, for example, I'm using Dropbox, but I see 3 or 4 people have an older version of it. Or I can tie down certain things. So for example, one big thing about apps is the connecting with other applications as well. So you can close off that as well. You've also got Defender for identities. And that's like, say, for example, your logins. So when you log into your computer and that as well. So you might be using Active Directory, a local Active Directory, so protecting on there. But the one we're looking at on here is something called Microsoft Defender for Endpoints. And when we say endpoints, that is any device. So that is, like, say, for example, your smartphone, that is your iPad, that is your laptop and that there. So you're protected across all the endpoints. And one of the big things on here now at the moment is if you look at question gets asked a lot about how many devices does a user have and that there. In general, it does fluctuate, but people generally log into 3 to 4 devices. So for example, it could be a laptop, it could be a smartphone, it could be an iPad and that as well. So it's getting that protection over your devices and that there. Now, this slide here, not to kind of like cause, scare tactics and that there, but again, this is some recent information that we've got, say 300% of ransomware attacks in the past year. So over 300% in that there, with more than 50% targeted at small businesses and that as well. So I think one of the interesting thing there as well is nearly one in four SMB state that they had a security breach in the last year. Now, again, what a security breach entails can be very different from one company to another company. Like we all know about the HSE, and again, not going into there, but again, what people don't realize that how that happened was very, very, very simple. And it was, if you look at it from a control side of it, it was really the IT not having control over an endpoint, and then that endpoint got corrupted and that as well. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoints. So it's an enterprise-grade device security for businesses of all sizes in a simple and cost-effective solution. Simon mentioned earlier, there's a very good chance that you have this here as part of your licensing and that, okay? So a lot of the time people look at, right, they have maybe say an antivirus, okay, I've got an antivirus program, I'm okay in that. Where Defender for Endpoints comes in, yes, it has an antivirus, but it has so much more on that side of it. And what it's doing on here is there's a term called zero-day attacks and that there as well. It's basically where there's been a compromise. The big advantage here from Microsoft on here is they see a new, maybe say a ransomware attack, or they see a new attack in that they're able to kind of, see that in real time on a device and that there, and then they can push out controls straight away in real time that will stop that impacting, like say, other customers as well. So one of the big things on here is, say for example, there's been different kind of like say WannaCry. There's been different kind of like ransomware attacks and that there. What Defender for Endpoints can do as well is, if they see a new attack or a zero-day attack in that, they can kind of say to you in real time, okay, this is where it came in. It came in because the Windows operating system wasn't patched. Here are some of the vulnerabilities you might have at the moment. You're not attacked, but you need to patch this here. So again, this is proactive. And that's the one thing I would say to you on here is, why is it so different from an antivirus? A lot of time an antivirus, it's just running on the device and that there, it'll protect protect on the device not there. But with this here, Defender for Endpoints, this has been more proactive and it's getting these zero-day attacks. Ease to use in that there as well. So when we talk about ease to use in that there, from an IT perspective, this can be pushed out. For example, you might be using Intune, so we can push this out through Intune and that as well. But again, from a device side of it, always look at your mobile phones, look at your secondary devices and that as well. So this can be pushed out to this here. It's an agent that runs on each device. And when we look at, say, a term there, for example, cost effective, when I talk about cost effective, there is a chance if you've got Microsoft 365 Business Premium, you've got Defender for Business. Now, Defender for Business, Defender for Endpoints, very similar products in that as well. So again, when we touch on here, we're normally referring to Defender for Endpoints because it protects on your endpoints. But the other thing as well on here is you can install this here on 5 different devices, okay? So a lot of other endpoint protection solutions, they will charge you per device in that. So with Microsoft on here, because it's using your Active Directory credentials, and it will protect you over 5 devices. And again, you know, if somebody goes over their 5 devices and that there, then we can look into, you know, are you actively using your 5 devices and that as well. So Defender for Endpoints. So simplified onboarding and administration. For Windows operating systems, Defender for Endpoints simplified onboarding and security configuration flows, uses wizard-driven guides and that there. So from an IT perspective, you're following through kind of like a wizard-driven guide to install it onto the devices and that as well. Now, again, I touched on you can use Microsoft Intune that can push it out to devices. You can use a local script, again, depending on how you push out to the different devices. So threat and vulnerability management. So it helps you prioritize and focus on the weaknesses that pose the most urgent and the highest risk to your business and that as well. So a key thing on here is, and it, especially around, say the pandemic and that, okay, a lot of people had to work from home very, very quickly in that, okay? So people were logging into different devices. So how you control, you know, people that log in and that as well. So for example, somebody can use their own device. You can push out, you know, controls on that side of it as well. But again, you can look in real time straight away here. I see a vulnerability on a device and that as well. What do I do on that device? So it could be a case, you know, give an example, we see a vulnerability on a device, we might want to isolate that device. We might want to bring it off the device. We can do that in real time and that as well. There's other things as well. You know, for example, attack surface reduction reduces your attack surface, places your company in vulnerable to a cyber attack. So again, you know, we spotted a device. We're going to bring that off the network and that, okay? Now, it might be a ransomware attack where we might bring it off the network, but we might not want to, like, say, you know, clean up the device. A lot of times from an IT perspective, if you get a device that's compromised, what you'll do is you'll isolate it off the network, you know, and in general, you'll have backups in place and that there. Maybe you're using OneDrive, you're backing up your desktop documents or whatever it is. Generally, from an IT perspective, you will wipe the device. Sometimes from an IT perspective, because I've isolated the device off the network, I might just want to have a look at where it's going, what it's trying to do, and that as well. Like, you know, so next generation protection helps to prevent and protect against threats at your front door with anti-malware, antivirus protection on your devices and in the cloud. So again, we look at this here, you know, that it's an antivirus. That's the simplest part here from when we look at it. But the key part on here is the endpoint detection and response. And there's a term like EDR. And one thing I'd say on here is, if you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant for EDR solutions, Microsoft is in the top right. It's the leader in this here area and that as well. You look at other kind of competitors in that area. You're looking at, like, say for example, other solutions like, say for example, Sophos or McAfee or something there and that there. Microsoft has gone into that area as a leader in it and that there. And why is that the case? Well, think about it. How many endpoints do Microsoft look after? The amount of endpoints that Microsoft are looking after, they are gaining this, you know, reputation in the market now because they have the software. They're looking after it and that as well, and they're able to kind of go, right, we see this here attack on a device and that there, and they're able to work on it and push out kind of remedies in real time and that as well. So get behavioral based detection response alerts, allowing you to identify persistent threats and remove from your environment. Manual response actions with Defender will allow you to get to process files with live responses. And again, sometimes you're looking at here is, where is the threat? What is it? What is it doing in that as well? So again, as well, automated investigation, remediation helps to scale your security operations by examining alerts and taking immediate action to resolve attacks for you. By reducing alert volume, remedies threats and that as well. But again, what I would kind of say on here is this is real-time reporting, real-time alerts and that, you know, and again, you can do as much training. I know the team here are very good at doing training and that as well. Somebody, you know, clicks on a link, downloads something and that there, you know, what I find a lot of times is somebody will click and download something and then they realize, you know, they've done something wrong. By that time, then that can be interacting. But again, with alerts from an IT perspective, this can be stopped as well. And again, you can actually build in kind of certain, you know, when you get alerts and that there, it'll automatically isolate the device again. So IT have a lot more function on this here as well. So again, there's also API integrations on this here as well. So touched on here, very, very important is on here is the administration and the setup on this here as well. And just to reiterate as well, this is what the team, the IT team here will be doing on here to onboard devices and that as well. But remember, mobile devices, you know, iPads, Mac devices, it covers across on that as well. And again, from a licensing, the Microsoft 365 Business Premium license, that really is your go-to license from a security side. You know, it has, like we touched on before, Defender for Office 365, it has Intune and that as well. So when we talk about, like, say, Intune, we're looking at device management and that as well, where we can push out software and that as well. So threat and vulnerability management. So effectively identifying, assessing and remedying device weaknesses is pivotal in managing devices and reducing organizational risk as well. And again, sometimes on this here, it can be user behavior. You'll see there the dashboard on here as well. And we can look at, like, say, you know, for example, like the integration with cloud apps as well is sometimes you can have your machine patched to the latest version that there, but you have an application that is pretty old. And like we've seen, especially under our support side of it, we have seen where vulnerabilities have come. You know, you've got the latest operating system, you've got antivirus, but you've got an app that's causing an issue in that as well. And that's why this proactive side on it now as well. To me now at the moment, an EDR solution is key, to be quite honest with you, because we're seeing now with I'll never forget, like, a meeting. This was a while back in that, where we asked IT manager, how many devices do you have on the network and that there, and the IT manager kind of said, well we've 150 staff, roughly about 200. And I remember there was somebody in the IT team saying, no, we have 450. And that, a couple of things came out of that. There was, first of all, they didn't know, because they were actually guessing. We were able to do a little bit of analysis and kind of say, well, this is where we can see from an endpoint side as well. And again, you control which endpoints get access to the network and that as well. Like, you know, so, but the key part on here is, you know, we are proactively looking at your real estate. We are looking at to see if there is any issues in that as well. Like, you know, so attack surface reduction. So your organization's attack surface includes all the places where an attacker could compromise your organization's devices or networks. Reducing your attack surface means protecting your organization, devices, and network, which leaves attackers with fewer ways to perform attacks. So give an example on this here is, a device gets compromised. Does that device then have access to all the devices on the network? Now, again, we'll use a term sometimes like segmenting your network. So if a compromise does come in, that the attack surface cannot, you know, increase. One of the big advantages on this product is if an alert comes in, the alert can then process, right, we're taking this computer or this device off the network as well. So attack surface reduction rules target certain software behaviors, such as launching executable files and scripts that attempt to download or run on files. So a lot of times, you know, sometimes you might download a file and the file, nothing malicious seems to happen in that there. 2 or 3 days later, that file has a built-in executable and then starts to run and that. Again, with this here, this is unusual behavior in that, and again, using the term being proactive as well. Running obfuscated or otherwise suspicious scripts and that as well. And again, that can be from files that are downloaded as well. Performing behaviors that apps don't usually initiate during normal day-to-day work. And that's an important part there as well. And this is where you do get that integration with cloud apps as well, Defender for Cloud Apps and that as well, is this is an unusual piece of behavior for this here application and that there. And what can that be? It could be going out to a third-party website to bring down information and that as well. So one of the jewels, again, one of the jewels I would say to you in this here product, and a question that comes up a lot is around web content filtering configuration and that, okay? And I've seen this from customers. This is one of the key features that they want from the product and that as well. So again, we have different kind of like say categories and that as well. So you can block content, be it across Edge, be it across Chrome, be it across Firefox, whatever it is and that as well. So you can kind of say, right, I'm only going to allow these here categories and that there. You can add in exceptions as well if you need to and that as well. But again, anybody that's worked in IT, I know from an example I had where we had an intern come in, we were in Australia, we were backpacking, somebody came in and we started to notice unusual behavior in that as well. So again, this is where you can control from a work perspective, what people are accessing as well, so. Okay, so we'll just get to a poll here. Would you consider using Microsoft Defender for web content filtering? So the options are yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm already aware of this feature. No, we use something else to filter web content and that. So again, I'll just repeat that again. Would you consider using Microsoft Defender for web content filtering? Yes, absolutely. Yes, I was already aware of this feature. No, we use something else to filter web content. So I'll just give people
just while we're waiting, Michael, for the results to come through. Actually, we've had a question through from one of our attendees I think is important we address now. It's focused on the beginning of your content there. It says, are you referring to Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 as opposed to Plan 2?
Yeah, okay. So very, very good question on there from a licensing side. So what you have on here is you have Microsoft Defender for Business, you have Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Plan 1, and you've got Microsoft Defender Plan 2. What we're really talking around here is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and the business one on here, Simon. The Plan 2 more, it goes into kind of ask the experts and that, where you can go into a security team into more detail. But what we're recommending on here is the one that's built into the business premium. And if, for example, you don't have that plan, like say, for example, you might have just say a business basic, you can add on Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 as well, like so.
Okay. Thank you. We've had the results in. So 60% have answered yes, absolutely. 21% have said yes, I was aware of this feature, and only 19% have said no, that they'd use something else to filter their web content. Okay.
Well, it's interesting because this is one area that when speaking to a lot of customers, they don't have a solution. So it's even interesting to see that there is 19 that are using another product in that as well. Okay, so next generation protection. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint includes next generation protection to reinforce the security perimeter of your network. Next generation protection was designed to catch all types of emerging threats and that. And again, if you look at, like, say, for example, the Windows 10, Windows 11, that comes with a built-in antivirus program and that there as well. But what we're looking at here is things like, say, for example, cloud delivered protection, which includes near instant detection and blocking of new and emerging threats. And that's the key part on here in that there, because of the insights that Microsoft have in that there, they can look and they can see if an emerging threat has happened in that there, and then they can push out on that side of it as well. Like, you know, so, and again, just going into this here in more detail in that there, when you look at, like, say, for example, endpoint detection and response capabilities provided advanced attack detections that are near real-time and actionable. And remember, this is not only over your operating system, this is over your mobile devices and that as well. And I cannot emphasize, you know, this here. And this is, look, if you're looking at, like, say, live responses and that there, so real-time live connections to a remote system and that there, like, so where you can go in and that there and, you know, check to see on a compromise as well, like, you know, so. And the big thing on here as well is the automated investigation and remediation and that there. So your compromise, you put all these controls in place and that there, that's brilliant. And one thing I'd say to you on here is, we're not saying here, you put this product in, you're sorted. You can sit back, relax, security, you know, nothing's going to happen to you and that there. The security team can take, you know, time off and that there. This is constant monitoring and that there. And I cannot be clearer on this here is, you know, this is putting a solution in. It's these zero-day attacks and that as well, you know, but again, it's you getting the alert. You get the alert, then a couple of alerts come in, then it's an incident not there, then we can see where the compromise comes in. I cannot be clear on that there side of it and that there. It is proactive maintenance and that there, like, you know, so but it's just understanding this here, the like, you'll hear this term sometimes as well, like AIR, auto investigation and remediation and that as well. And again, you know, scale security operations with 24/7 automated responses. So again, you think of it on here is, you might have an employee working, like, say, different hours and that there. So maybe, you know, you're providing support, like, say, Monday to Friday, you know, 9 to 5 or whatever it is in that there as well. But you might have somebody working out of a different time zone in that as well. They download something in that as well. And then you've got the policies in place to actually control that in real time as well. Mark, you were saying, I was chatting to you about an example on this here that you had with one of your customers.
Yeah, quite a few examples, I suppose. One point I would reiterate, and you've kind of made it already, but it is a very important point, that there is an absolute imperative and need now to have an EDR, an endpoint detection and response. Your traditional antivirus, what's now called EPP, sorry, there's so many acronyms in IT security. It's just not up to the job anymore. It just, if you don't have an EDR solution, you are vulnerable. You're vulnerable to the current attacks, and we are starting to see that more and more. We have unfortunately had a number of breaches across our wider customer base over, particularly in the last 6 months, and in each case, an EDR probably would have stopped that. So, you know, that's why we would recommend go with Defender. You're probably licensed for it already. If you don't want to go with Defender, fine, buy a different EDR. There's other EDR products out there, but obviously we are here to recommend Defender. Trying to think of some examples. At a very interesting one, probably a few weeks back, one of our customers, one of our kind of larger, very security focused, they're in the financial sector, and I noticed some alerts coming in quite late one evening. I happened to be working late, and one alert came in. Ooh, what the hell? That doesn't look good. There's something going on there. Then another alert, and all of a sudden, in the space of about 3 or 4 minutes, there's about 15 alerts coming in. And then after another couple of minutes, this all got consolidated into what's called an incident in Defender. So each alert is an individual thing, you know, somebody clicks a link or a script or something like that. They get bundled into an incident. And the incident was very clear. It said that your network had been breached and a threat actor had control of your systems. And of course, at this stage, I'm going, oh my God, what is going on? This is not good. So as it happens, I know the CEO of the company quite well, and I just rang him and said, listen, there's something quite bad going on, I think, on your network. Could be a false alert, but I think we need to look at it. And he says, don't worry about it. And I says, well, have to worry about it. At this stage, she admitted they'd actually hired a third party to do an unannounced penetration test on their network. These people had sent in a box, a Unix box, which was launching incredibly sophisticated attacks, 0-day threats, everything. I got to, again, so sigh of relief at this stage. Okay, at least it's a friendly native coming in here. I have to admit, I was very impressed, with the way Defender handled it. And when we got talking to these people who were very, very good, they did say that if it hadn't been for Defender, that they would have been able to breach the network. They were using 0-day exploits, stuff that Microsoft didn't even know about yet. Which would have been able to, but Defender was picking this up, even though it didn't know really what it was. It knew it wasn't right, and it was able to block it. And of course, the other point is it alerted very quickly on it.
Yeah, perfect. No, because Mark, when you were telling me about this here, because it's a really good example, like about the proactive kind of side of it. Now, I know we're just slightly over time in that as well, but just finally, I wanted to finish up here as well with Defender for Cloud Apps. Now, I've touched on this here a little bit. One of the things from an IT perspective is you want to control what applications you run. And the example I always kind of look at as well is because when I worked as an IT consultant, we had a department, and I'm not going to name what department it was, the HR department, but they were using Dropbox, and they were using Box, and they were using something else. And we had controls we thought in place that were stopping them using this here, because we were using OneDrive to share files and that there. HR kind of said to us, we have to use this here because we work with companies that are using that. Now, from our perspective on here is if we were using Defender for Cloud Apps, we could have allowed them to use that, but under strict controls and that there. Normally with the different kind of like say applications and that there, we can look after 26,000 different cloud apps. And even if you've got your own built-in app in that as well, we can put controls in place in that as well. So make sure that it's on one of the later versions. We can turn off some features as well. One of the things with applications is, an application like say, for example, say Slack and that there. You might be using Slack and it integrates with Dropbox. Is that causing a risk in that as well? So again, you can see this here from a control side of it as well. But also as well, there's a lot more features within this here because with Cloud Apps, it goes into the security side of Microsoft from a conditional access side. So little things like say, for example, Mark logs into 365 and that there from Dublin. 10 minutes later, he logs in from Cape Town. Now there's something wrong on here, and again that's logging in into an app in that we're seeing unusual behavior in that as well. But again, the beauty on this here is it integrates in with Defender for endpoints as well. And again, you can look at as well, like say for example, certain applications, well, that's taking up a lot of our kind of like say data being used there and that as well. You can also see applications that are just not used but are there. So what will we do? Clean that up, remove and that as well, so. But and again, look, apologies, I did go over a little bit of time. I'm going to blame Mark for that there if we're going over time.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Mark. We do have some questions coming in, but I think we can move to our last poll of the session, guys. So now that you've heard a little bit about Defender, the question we're asking you is, do you see a use case in your organization for Microsoft Defender? You have 4 choices. Yes, you just would like to know a little bit more about it, which is understandable. Possibly, we're not sure if it does fit. You're already using Defender, which some of you are from our first poll this morning, and then you don't see a use for it at all. So I'll give you a little bit of time to answer that poll and for the results to come through. Just while we're waiting for the results, Michael, and one thing I mentioned at the start and Mark brought up again was that some Microsoft M365 licensing includes Defender. I'm going to cheat a little bit and start answering your question now. Which of the licenses do include Defender at the moment?
Yeah, so at the moment, Simon, if I was looking at the SMB market in that, I would be looking at Microsoft 365 Business Premium. That is the product that has it in that there. Now, be aware that it does come in some of the other kind of more advanced plans, like say the Microsoft 365 E5 plans in that there. It does end up in there. But if you're talking about like the sub 300 users in that there, It sits in the Microsoft 365 Business Premium. And again, it has most of the features that the P2 plan has, apart from that part about, like, say, ask the experts and that there, which is going, normally if you find, like, say a piece of ransomware attack, you want to get a bit more information on it. You've got access to these experts and that there. But again, most of the built-in controls are in the business plan.
Very good. And we have our results in. I guess the good news for your content, Michael, is that nobody answered that they don't see a use for it. So everybody sees a use for it, or they may already be using it. So good job. We can move on to the questions then, everybody. We've had a lot of questions in on today's content. I'll pick just one or two of them if I can and fire them at Michael and Mark to answer. One question that I have here is, basic question: does this work alongside or instead of our currently installed AV solution?
Will I take that one, Michael?
Yeah, you take that one.
Yeah, it's a very good question from Al, I think, and somebody else as well asked a very similar question, more or less the same question, but in relation specifically to WebRoot. It is an interesting one.
Yes.
The general received wisdom now is to only have a single product. So to use one product as your primary antivirus, your what's called EPP, and also your EDR solution. That's changed in the last year. There is an obvious synergy or reason for saying, well, have two different products. There's more security, there's independence. The problem with that approach is that EDR is all about telemetry. It's all about having information, knowing exactly at a really granular level what's going on, and also having the ability to take actions if it doesn't like the look of something. If you put a third-party antivirus, be it WebRoot, Trend, McAfee, Sophos, in front of it, as it were, A, it hides or obfuscates a little bit of what's going on from Defender, and B, it also doesn't let Defender take the action. So my recommendation is simply go with Defender, go all in. There's also a commercial, you pay money, take the likes of Trend or McAfee or any of these other perfectly good antivirus products. None of those, in my opinion, are any better than the Defender antivirus component. That's not just me saying it. These are well benchmarked. You can look them up. So generally, at the moment, the received wisdom is pick an EDR product. We're obviously suggesting Defender here, and go with that as your one and only. But it is an interesting question. There is a counter argument to be made there.
Yeah, the other thing on that.
Thanks, Mark. Answered two questions in one there. Next one for you, Michael, if that's okay. Is Defender for Office 365 formerly ATP?
Yes, that's somebody that knows their licensing.
I think they might have been asking.
The one thing I'd say to you on here is Microsoft do not like change. Ask Simon, ask the team there, and that. Yeah. So yes, and that's. I probably should have referred to that. So ATP, Advanced Threat Protection. Defender for Office 365. Yes.
I think they may also have been asking, if there was the question from Brendan, is it included with Business Premium? And the answer is yes. So the yes. Defender for Office is included with M365 Business Premium, to be somewhat pedantic, because there was an old Office 365. So yes, and I would mention there, because I do see it sometimes with customers, you've got your M365 Business Premium, so therefore you got, what used to be ATP, Defender for Office. Turn it on. If you don't, you'd have to configure it. Out of the box, it doesn't do a lot. It does a bit, but you have to go in and configure those policies. It's very, very quick and easy to do, and I would strongly recommend that people do it.
And the other thing as well, it's not only email, it goes across your SharePoint, goes across your Teams and that as well. So that's one big advantage as well.
Great. I think last question then. What is the difference between Defender for Business and Defender for Endpoint? Who wants that one, guys?
Will I take it, Michael? Or
yeah.
Okay, yeah. And you can correct me when I'm wrong. So yeah, Defender for Business is what you get with business. So you can buy it as a standalone SKU, but you can also, it's what you get with M365 Business Premium. Again, apologies if I'm struggling a bit here. And it's an interesting in that if you just talk about Defender for Endpoint, it comes in two different plans, which you can buy. Plan one, in my mind, isn't really a great product. It's missing some of the really important components. Critically, it is missing the EDR component. It's really the built-in Defender antivirus with centralized management and some additional bells and whistles. The full product is called Plan 2, and that's got everything, including some of these really good features like threat experts, like having the data look back of up to 6 months worth of data stored. The Defender for Business sits somewhere in the middle of those two, but it's actually closer to Plan 2 than Plan 1, and it contains about 80% of the product. I mean, if budget is not an issue, and of course budget is always an issue, but let's pretend you're really rich and you don't care, buy P2, just do it. You've got everything. But, you know, take a step back then and say, well, do you know what? I've already paying for a business premium, therefore I've got Defender. So is it worth that extra €5 or €4 or €5, whatever it is for P2? And that's a, you know, it's not for me to answer, but it's certainly a question that needs to be asked. Just one other point there that wasn't asked but maybe is implied is it's worth noting as well. Defender covers all of your endpoints, but servers in this case are also endpoints. I know that sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, but you know, from the Defender point of view, it absolutely covers your Windows servers, your Linux servers, but you need to license those separately. So and I would recommend you do that. You know, so you've got 100 users, 10 servers, get 100 M365 business premiums. That's your end users covered, all of their Windows machines, all their mobile phones, their iPad, whatever else. And then you buy 10 server licenses of P2, and that covers your entire estate. So again, I've hopefully answered the question.
Thank you, Mark. I think you can move on a few slides there, Michael, if that's okay. We can wrap up. We didn't get to all of our questions today, everybody, but those we didn't get to answer, we will certainly follow up directly with you on that. So just to wrap up, ultimately, in terms of next steps, by all means, we'll reach out to everybody who attended today's session. In the first instance, help you understand, are you licensed for this technology already? And if so, what variants? And part of that conversation can be an assessment by ourselves, which is free of charge, as to where Defender might sit into your organization or not sit into your organization. So your account managers will be in contact about that. And please take advantage of that free assessment. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We do really appreciate it. It's an exceptionally busy time of year for everybody. We do know that. If you're not following us on LinkedIn or Twitter, please do so. We plan to run an awful lot more of these educational type of events. That's where we put up the information. And of course, we'll email everybody directly. Don't forget, the recording will be sent to you all by email. It might pop into junk boxes, etc. So just keep an eye out for that. But thank you very much. And on behalf of Echo, Unity, and IT Force, I wish you all a very good day. Goodbye.
Thank you.